Ladies and gentlemen, good day and welcome to the Finolex Cables Limited Q1FY24 Analyst Conference Call. As a reminder, all participant lines will be in the listen-only mode, and there will be an opportunity for you to ask questions after the presentation concludes. Should you need assistance during the conference call, please signal an operator by pressing star then 0 on your touchtone phone. I now hand the conference over to Ms. Mamta Samat from Perfect Relations. Thank you, and over to you, ma'am.
Thank you, Zico. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the Finolex Cable Limited Q1 FY24 Analyst Conference Call. Today we have with us the senior management represented by Mr. Deepak Chhabria, Executive Chairman, and Mr. Mahesh Viswanathan, Chief Financial Officer. Before we begin, I would like to say that some of the statements that will be made in today's discussion may be forward-looking in nature. We will begin the call with the opening remarks from the management, after which we will have the forum open for the interactive Q&A session. I will now request the management for the opening remarks. Thank you, and over to you, sir.
Good afternoon and welcome to this call of the first quarter results of Finolex Cables Limited. I'm Mahesh Viswanathan, speaking on behalf of the company. A quick recap on the quarter that went by. Revenue, we posted fairly strong results. Revenue was up by about 19% on comparable basis, and almost similar to what was done in quarter 4 last year. At the EBIT level, the numbers improved substantially from close to 14% PBT as against 12% in the corresponding quarter of last year. And post-tax results were about 11% compared to 9.3% earlier. In absolute terms, the post-tax results were actually 38% higher than the corresponding quarter of last year. Within these segments, electrical segment, the revenue was up by about 22% compared to the corresponding quarter of last year, almost similar to what was achieved in quarter 4 last year as well. Communication cables was flat, whereas there was growth in the copper segment from 300 crores to about 383 crores. At segment EBIT levels, the electrical cables line stabilized at about 13.1%. We have traditionally been around 13.5% in the past, except for 1 or 2 quarters last year where because of commodity price movements, we had to take a cut in the margins. But now we're back on track there. In volume terms, the electrical wires, which is our largest selling product, recorded a volume increase of about 29%. Power cables grew by about 3%, and communications cables, the segment grew about 17%. There was price erosion in the communication cables side, mainly on the fiber prices. Globally, fiber prices declined substantially over the last 6 months, and the effect was felt on the top line. We had, together with other industry members, made a representation to the government on the quantity of fiber that was being dumped into the country from overseas. The government has taken note of it, and last week issued a corrective mechanism whereby there is an imposition of anti-dumping duty on imports from those countries. So we hope that going forwards, the correction to the realization will take place. It will not happen immediately, but over a period of time that should steady. The last part that I would like to touch upon is that on the communication cable side, 2 weeks ago, the cabinet approved a spend of approximately 1.4 lakh crores on the last mile connectivity on broadband under the BharatNet program. I think this will, over the next couple of years, add more to the top line of the company, and it fits in line with our expansion programs on those areas. So with this brief background, I now open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and one on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and two. Participants are requested to use only handsets while asking a question. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Our first question is from the line of Rahul Agarwal from InCred Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Good evening. Thanks for having this call. One clarification and then three questions. Firstly, on volume growth, the press release mentions electrical wires as 29% volume growth and power cables separately. So if I understand it correctly, electrical wires is excluding all cables, right? The auto, agriculture and power. Is that correct?
No, power cable is separate. Electrical wires, when I say that, includes auto as well as agricultural applications.
Okay, get it. So now getting into questions. Firstly, on revenue growth, obviously we're all seeing that cable and wire is getting disproportionate growth right now into upcycle of the industry. For full year fiscal 24, across your three segments, what kind of revenue growth would you expect? So electrical cables, I understand copper is down YOY, but still you're managing 20% plus. So I would imagine that should continue. So in case, just your thoughts on electrical cable segment and FMEG and communication cable. Both have been flat this quarter, but what's the way out ahead, please?
On the electrical segment, a lot of it is driven by growth in the infra segment. So that could be realty, that could be housing. That could be housing, that could be infrastructure, that could be other government spends. So as long as those spends continue on the same trend as we have seen over the last 6 months, then you're right, a similar growth is possible. On the communication cable side, while the volume growth was there, the value growth was kind of flat, like I mentioned earlier, primarily due to the depressed prices of fiber. First quarter, I think the average price of fiber was about $3.2. So I think now that this anti-dumping duty has come into place effective last week, we should see realizations getting back to some sense of normalcy going forward. The demand is still there, and with the additional announcements from the cabinet, those should translate into demand. Maybe not in the immediate term, but in the medium and long term, it should bounce back strongly. On the appliances and FMEG part, the rains in summer kind of disrupted the whole scene. I think this has been a common theme across many participants in the industry. So that has had an impact on the volumes. Secondly, while inflation has come down from its high, I think there is still a lot of hesitancy in terms of discretionary spends. But if the housing momentum keeps going on, I think those should also bounce back in the short and medium term.
So on communication cables, largely assuming the price remains flat, let's say, base case, what should be the growth for fiscal 24?
We should see tenders coming up now. It depends on when those tenders are, opened up, and that will drive volume. So that's something that I'm not able to really comment with a degree of certainty there.
But in terms of existing order book, what kind of visibility will we have?
We will have visibility for about 6 months.
Yeah, no. So from the private sector, you have got Bharti and Reliance investing in 5G, and they are doing a lot of good rollouts. So while the rate contracts are fixed for a year, the quantity is placed every month. But we do expect that because of the 5G rollouts, the demand should be robust. They would still go on purchasing. Everyone knows about the rollout. Other than that, the company has taken steps to do some EPC business. So we started in Gujarat, where we are, installing and laying the fiber optic cables also and giving to them. So this activity we are going to try and replicate and grow in more states. So we see the demand for cable will also pick up a little bit from the EPC contracts as well.
Got it, sir. And FMEG, just to summarize what you said, obviously I understand demand is weaker because of rains, but we are pretty small. I thought we are focused on increasing market share and new product launches. Shouldn't that help you to, on a smaller base, to at least grow on this base?
Yes and no. When the overall market spend itself is depressed, it will have an impact on smaller players as well, right?
Okay, get it. The next question was on communication cables again. In terms of capacity, I just wanted to know what is it right now, and based on the current price, what could be the peak revenue we could achieve, both for metal-based and OFCs?
One second.
Fiber, I can tell you.
Fiber will go to 4 million.
So, on the communication, on the fiber optic, if you want to know capacity, we have a capacity on the cabling side of 8 million fiber kilometer, and we draw the fiber is about 4 million fiber kilometer at present. So that is the present capacity. In the expansion plan, what the company is doing, where we are adding additional capacity on the cabling side, we will go from 8 to 10 million fiber kilometer, and we are going to increase on the towers from 4 to 8 million, and we are also adding preforms as a backward integration, which in the first phase would be 4 million, and then later on, second phase will take place of 4 million. It will be in 2 tranches.
Get it. So to understand this correctly, let's say if you're doing like 150 crore a quarter of communication cable business right now, that number can go up to, at current pricing, can go up about 8 to 10 million. 8 million goes to 10 million, so that's about 25% increase. Is that correct?
That's on the cabling side. But instead of buying fiber from outside, we will be drawing our own fiber, so you will add more value addition and profit in the company. And as time goes, we will be adding preforms. The project is underway right now. So in a year's time, we would have 4 million of preforms. So the end cable product may not be going up, but the value addition in the organization will be going up. The profits will go up.
Understand, sir. The margin will go up, basically.
The margin will go up, yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, sir, and pardon me for this question, we've seen stock exchange filing on the pending legal matters. I think no decision was made there. It was more of a disclosure. There's been a lot of discussion, last 1 year on amicable settlement, and stock is almost more than doubled based on rumors on and insider information on WhatsApp and a lot more other sources. Whatever legitimate update you can provide, based under the law, if you could help shareholders to understand, whatever you can provide, what is really happening on the family settlement, please. That's my last question. Thanks.
See, the problem is that since there are so many cases like you mentioned, the matters are sub judice, so I am not allowed to comment on the same. I'm restricted. So you have to excuse me on that.
I understand, sir, but it's still very material for shareholders, isn't it?
No, but I have to follow the law. I cannot break the law.
No,
because it's all in court, so I can't comment one way or the other on that. I can say it's not over, it still continues, but other than that, I can't say anything about the case.
Got it, sir. So no decision has been made. Is that correct? Is that understanding correct?
Yeah, the status is still the same as it was earlier.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for answering my questions. Best wishes for the year.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Shivam Mittal from Purnartha Investment Advisors Private Limited. Please go ahead.
Thank you so much, sir, for the opportunity. A lot of peers is talking about China plus one strategy that is going in US market. So US customer actually don't want to dependent on Chinese suppliers itself. So they are looking for India. So how are we looking like export opportunities?
We haven't looked at US at the moment. We have some exports, not very large, but we have some exports to the Middle East and parts of Africa. And so that's where our focus has been so far. We have not looked at US at this point in time.
All right. Thank you so much. What is the current capacity utilization as a whole and in wires, electric wires specifically?
Wires, at the moment, we should be somewhere around 70%.
Right. And company as a whole?
It's very difficult to, add wires and other product lines. But let me make an attempt. I think it should be somewhere around the 65 to 68% mark.
CapEx for FY23 and 24 you guided for 250 crores for 24 and 100 crores next. So is this remain same and?
Yeah, that's on track. That is on track. Nothing much has changed there. So.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Sonali Salgaonkar from Jefferies. Please go ahead.
For the opportunity. So my first question is in the electrical wires of 29% volume growth. Which are the key end user segments, and if you could quantify them as well, please?
Okay. Actually, growth has been fairly broad-based. Construction wire has gone up by about just under 30%. Industrial wire has gone up by about 20%. Agriculture has gone up substantially, but then we had a lower base last year. It's almost up double. And auto is up by about 30%.
Right. So, and is it fair to say that almost 65% of our electrical wires is catering to construction?
Yes.
Understand. So my second question is regarding pricing actions. You mentioned that, the price of optic fiber has eroded. Could you quantify what was it about 6 months back? You just did $3.2 is the average price in Q1. What was it 6 months back?
It was close to 4.5, I think.
Okay, all right. So, and about the ADD imposed, what's the percentage of ADD and on which countries is it imposed?
It's between 5 and 15%. And the countries involved are China, I think Indonesia, and a third country.
And this is from immediate effect, right?
This is from the 5th of August.
All right, sir. So thirdly, on the operating margin of the company as a whole, we have improved year on year to about 12%. But earlier, say about 3-4 years back, we were even higher at about 14 to 15%. And in the interim during COVID, we resorted to discounting, wherein our margins came down to 12% or sub 12%. So what could be required for us to regain that 14 to 15% mark on the operating margins as a whole?
I think the price realizations on the communication cable sector, an improvement is required. I think this ADD would help, and that should flow through into the margins there. While it may not bridge the entire gap, I think it is part of the reason why it is a little depressed at this point in time. And of course, we have also started a higher spend over the last 3 years on our advertisement and sales promotion expenses. So that is also taking a bite out of the margins. So as we improve top lines, as we improve volume, I think the recovery will start coming in there.
Got it, sir. Sir, and on the cables and wires part, X communication in the electrical side, were there any material pricing actions that we saw in Q1 or in Q2 so far?
Q1, yes, we did. We did 2 price reductions in May and 1 price increase in June.
And the quantification of that, please?
Net, I think, net reduction would be around 2.5%, I think. Twice we reduced prices and once we increased.
Increase. So net reduction is 2.5. Got it, sir. And last question from my side, approximately of our overall mix, how much is cables versus wires?
For us?
Yes.
Cables versus wires it's a small number. It's about 15% or 10 to 15% of the total.
No, sir. So of our overall mix, product mix, how much is cables and how much is wires?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No,
so
he wants to know how much is cables on the total and how much is wires on the total.
You are talking in terms of value?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So out of the 1,200 crores,
Total company generation.
yeah, out of the 1,200 crores for the quarter, wires is about 1,000 and cables is about 34.
Got it, sir. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Natasha Jain from Nirmal Bang. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. My question is just a follow-up on what one of the previous participants had asked. Sir, the BharatNet project, I believe the third phase is going on and there are tenders that cable and wire have submitted. So I want to know if you have submitted tenders and has the allotment been done? First question is that. And second question is, what kind of a top-line contribution can we see from these tenders and over how many years will the top-line kick in?
So phase 3 that was announced 2 weeks ago, where the cabinet has approved the spend, is about 1.4 lakh crores for various items to be used in the last mile connectivity. So it is not just cables, it could be electronics, it could be other stuff as well. Now those tenders are not yet out. The cabinet has announced that yes, we are okay, ready to spend this money, but the tenders are not yet out. Earlier to this, about 2 years ago?
Yeah.
About 2 years ago, an attempt was made, tender was floated, but the tender got scrapped because they were trying to do it on a PPP basis and there were way too many questions for which the answers were not very clearly visible. How would the participation happen? How would the participant be allowed to charge? What kind of fee they would be allowed to charge? All those were questions which were for which there were no real answers. So I think at that point in time the tender was scrapped. Subsequently, whatever they have been buying to fill in gaps and not really large scale rollouts. Now, this would be a large scale rollout and we are still awaiting the tender. And like I mentioned earlier, I don't believe this is going to get done in any hurry. Deployment would take time and you're looking at probably 3 to 5 year program.
Understood, sir. All right. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Rishabh Sisodia from Samiksha Capital. Please go ahead.
Hello. Sorry, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go
Hello.
ahead.
Yeah. Hi. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, I have a question on the FMEG part. So if you could just give us a broad target for the year and what is the current inventory in the channel, which is one of the reasons why we saw a 7% decline YOY basis.
I think the channel inventory which got blocked during quarter 3 last year, the depletion is slowly happening there have been changes, especially in the fans category. There have been changes in regulatory requirements. In fact, there was one yesterday as well. So that part is happening. But what created issues during this quarter was the unseasonal rains that we had in summer in many parts of the north. And season is when you sell most of it, and that's the time that offtake really did not happen. And like I mentioned earlier, while inflation has come down, discretionary spend still people are not so loose with their wallets yet. So there is a little bit of sluggishness in the market. We've tried to compensate for that by introducing newer models, but the activity levels need to increase before we get back on track. And when we last spoke, we said we would like to see this segment hit a number of about 500 crores in 2 to 3 years. So that target number is still alive for us. We've not gone back on that, and we will increase our efforts on the ground to make sure it does actually happen. You want to add anything?
Okay. Okay, sir. Thanks. Helpful.
So we are adding efforts on the advertisement side. So maybe in another month or so, you should see newer ads on the screens.
Yeah.
Around each of these products. So that should give us better visibility, and hopefully that should give us better pull as well.
Understood, sir. Understood. So the next part is on the CapEx. Could you reiterate your FY24 and 20 CapEx guidance?
What was your question?
Your CapEx guidance for the year and the company.
For the year, I think we mentioned that we would be spending close to 300 crores over the next 18-20 months, and that is still on. So we our E-beam program is progressing well. We expect the machine to be at least one of those machines to be commissioned by end of this calendar year, and both going live by Q1 next year. The construction work on the preform project is due to start anytime now. For the optic fiber expansion, the building is already ready. All we need to do is to complete it with equipment. So that process is on. On the regular expansion in terms of replenishments, that program continues. Additionally, I think we are increasing capacity on the auto cable side in one of our sites.
Okay, so cumulative, it should be around 400 for FY24 and 25, inclusive of the replenishment capex that you mentioned. Should be around that number.
Yeah.
And so, if I understand correctly, currently you are running at a 65% odd utilization mark. So, for this year, and so most of it, the capex would get 100% utilized by approximately mid FY26. Is that a correct understanding?
Yes.
Well, we would be announcing another capex down less than next year, FY25, right?
Yes. Once this is done and the programs are finished, then we will look at if there are additional gaps there.
So so just the last thing. So accounting for this new capacity and the current one, so we should be that should be sufficient enough to reach almost 6,500 top line.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So that's it from my side.
Okay.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line Sushil Choksey from Indus Equity Advisors. Please go ahead.
So congratulations on stable result. Mahesh, I have one question from the last con call. You had answered that your aspirational turnover is 10 to 11,000 crores and you will be doing 2,000 crores of capex if that has to be met. Out of which indicating 400 crore of CapEx typically in next 12 months of run rate. Can you guide further on this aspirational turnover and CapEx in a little elaborate from where we were last quarter and now? Hello?
Yeah, I'm thinking it over in my mind. So over the next year and a half, from what I remember, we had talked, I don't know whether it was you or somebody else, what I recall, we had talked about aspirations to get there 10,000-11,000 crores, and we would get there in various means. So one of the means was expansion of the existing product lines in terms of capacity. Now, just to take you through what we've done, we started a PVC conduit business more than a year ago. We've expanded it twice. Today we are producing 25 lakh pieces a month. There's no more space to expand into this plant is in Goa. So now we are looking at a new plant and to put in the east and as well as in the north. So Mahesh didn't talk of that, but that is another expansion coming up, which will happen in the next 12 months. Then in the automobile sector, we are actually sold out. Capacity is running full. We are expanding 50% capacity. We've ordered some machines recently, and the deliveries are about 12 months. So you will see physical expansion happening with capacity in about 12 months in the automobile side. We have big plans for the optic fiber business, where we are increasing capacity in the cabling, in the draw towers, as well as in the preform. So this part is about a 300 crore expansion, where we are counting preforms at 4 million in the first phase, but we are making the building ready for 8 million because this is a clean room environment kind of business where you don't go expanding piecemeal at a time. But the second phase will be another 4 million, which will happen in the next 2 years. And so there will be more capex planned there, and it will also contribute to the turnover. From only making fiber optic cables, we'll be selling fiber and fiber optic cables as we expand in those lines. We started a EPC division, and we're trying to grow that division. Investments will take place in that area. We have electron beam 2 lines coming on. When they go live, there are quite a few products which will come out of this electron beam. No one has asked that question, so I'll just want to update you on that. We are putting two lines. One is a smaller line, one is a larger line. The smaller line will run wires, so even in the house wiring sector, we can have a premium product which is coming out, because with radiation technology, you are able to enhance the properties of the insulation to withstand higher temperature, higher current rating, and higher abrasive resistant properties for open use. We will be launching from the bigger line solar cables. We'll also be launching products for railways, and there are a lot of high-speed railways coming in. We require instrumentation cable. Those will be made in the E-beam. While Mahesh talks of the E-beam building, there's a lot of other equipment required for making these products, like you require tinning lines, drawing lines, extrusion lines before they actually go for E-beam. So if you really count all these projects, it will be more than 500 crores happening in the next 18 months. Now, these are things we have in hand, which is already planned out for growth of the company. There is always going to be more products as we go along and new ideas that come along. And if you recall, on the FMEG products, we had talked that our first goal was to reach 500 crores as a turnover in all those 5-6 product lines. But the minute we cross 100 crores in a singular line, we will set up a plant, because today we are getting the product made from outside. The designs are ours, the molds are ours, but we are getting it manufactured through a third-party manufacturer because the volume is not sufficient to justify a plant. If you want to invest in a plant and you want a state-of-the-art plant which is automatic, robotic,
high quality, then you require higher volume to justify the plant. Otherwise, you'll make losses. So we are waiting for that to happen before we invest, and we believe in this run up to this 10,000 or 11,000 crores, we will have those plants also coming up in the next few years to support the activity. And to grow that business, we are working a lot on advertisement with using Bollywood stars. We are making spends on ad and strengthening the distribution network with a two-tier network. And we hope to see results with that happening in the next couple of years. So this expansions, and as Mahesh has also said in the past, we are looking for acquisitions. There are a couple of places where we are evaluating. We have not been successful as yet, but the evaluation continues in product lines which are natural extensions of our product lines. And the minute we click one or two of those, I think the expenditure will also happen, and we will also reach our goal and our aspirational target of 10,000 crores. So this should take couple of 3 years at least to reach that target.
Between the current capacity utilization to optimum capacity and the value addition plus the capex of 500, what kind of a top line can be added based on 500 crore capex in next 18 months?
At least 2,000 crores.
1,000 crores. And value addition percentage?
No. The top line will be 2,000 crores with that capex can be added.
And the value addition because of integrating various material on optic fiber and various other things, what will that be in percentage terms?
I think it should add a couple of at least 2 to 3 percentage points on the EBITDA number.
And this is without any protection on imports, or this is a natural course of action based on value addition, you're saying? Right now, those are being made by imports, right?
Yes, correct.
So if there is a duty protection, that will be added to it, right?
Yeah, see, the preforms are in. Today we draw the preforms, we import them. It's all 100% imported. There is only one Indian manufacturer making preforms. So we will be the second one. There is a good value addition in there. It's always a volume game. That's why we planned it to be an 8 million unit, but we are implementing in 2 phases of 4 million because we want to get our hands wet and make sure it is all stable before you add the second phase. But the real values come in as when the entire, the infrastructure when you spend on a larger building, on the gases and all the supporting infrastructure will be made for phase 1 and phase 2. So initially you may see for 1 year a different payback, and it will change in going into the second year.
Okay, my next question is compared to auto cables, and currently as the world is moving from IC engine to EV, and second thing is on solar cable, what's your outlook based on our products?
So you see, in auto cable, even if the world is changing to EV, the harness is still required because inside the car, it's about the wires which are connected to the various places like your windows, doors, music system. All that is going to remain. It's not going to vanish. Just that the driving the car, the engine was driving the train. Now it's a motor with a battery at the back which is driving it. So the harness is...
My question was more about how much more value addition will you do from IC to EV. That is more pertaining. I understand the cables are required.
Yeah.
The value addition will increase or it will remain at the same level?
No, the hardware remaining same, value addition remains same, but the volumes are growing.
Okay. And on outlook on the solar cables?
Sorry?
Solar cables.
Solar cable is a complete new product line which is going to be manufactured in the EV plant from scratch. So that will add additional value to the turnover to the company and value addition both.
What kind of capacity you are putting up for that?
What is that number you remember?
Annualized production, government thinking is to add 30,000 gigawatt of capacity.
Correct.
If you have 10-20% market share, will be serviced or we will not be able to service?
No. With two lines, you are not servicing 10-20% market share. It's much smaller. We are going to make that and then expand further with more lines. So
the starting is, this is our first step in that.
Correct.
So our first step would be for 1,000 gigawatts or more?
No, I don't have the number with me right now, the calculation, but it's about, if I'm not mistaken, about 2,000 odd kilometers a month, somewhere there.
Okay. And how is the pricing trend on that compared to normal cables?
No, the construction is different, so the pricing is going to be different. The question is, when we are ready at that point in time, where the market would be. Today you have cables which are cured chemically as well as cured through this radiation process, and the price points are slightly different.
When the project was conceived, where we were and where the price trend is, it's stable or it's up or down, that's all?
See, we've conceived the project doing all parts of the project, which includes thinning process, includes wire drawing, extrusion, as well as this E-beam process that goes with it. So value addition happens in all the places. When we conceived the entire project, the payback was at about 4 or 4.5 years. And it should remain the same. We had looked at two options where a compound, this is a very difficult compound to manufacture. People normally import it. We have done R&D. We are able to make our own compounds. And that brings more profitability in the project. Now, I don't have an exact number for you in terms of what that value addition is, but I told you the payback number.
Thank you for answering all my questions. All the best for the years to come.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Mahesh Bendra from LIC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead. Mr. Bendra, your line has been unmuted. Please go ahead with your question. May I request the management that we move to the next participant?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mahesh Bendra has dropped out of the queue. Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Bhavani Kumawat from Phillip Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Mr. Kumawat, may we request you to use your handset, please, as you're not audible, sir.
Am I audible right now, sir?
Hello?
Am I audible, sir?
Your voice is garbled.
Am I audible right now, sir?
Yeah, now it's very clear.
Please.
Yeah, so thank you for the opportunity. Just a data-driven question. Can you just let me know about the active touch points in Q1 vis-a-vis Q4 last year?
Q1 vis-a-vis Q4 last year.
Yeah.
Okay, so the active touch points last I don't have Q4, but I have Q1 to Q1. I have
Sure.
50,730 has gone to 60,390.
Okay, and any plans to expand it further, sir?
Absolutely. I mean, our goal is not at 60. 60 is not enough. We should be, we have a universe of about 175,000 people. And out of those 175,000, 60,000 have been billed at least once during the quarter. There have been many who have been billed twice, thrice, and more than 3 times. But unique billing has happened to about 60,000 people. That the target that we have given to the field force is that you increase the 60,000 towards the 175,000, and the quicker we close that gap, the better, because then you have presence across all the geographies.
Okay. Thank you so much for it, sir. Just next question is on how much will be our share of silver cables in Q1 compared to Q4 and Q1 last year, same period?
Share of what cable?
Silver cable.
Silver.
Oh, silver.
Yeah.
It'll be about half.
Sorry, sir? 50%?
Yeah, it'll be about half.
Okay. Got it, sir. Got it. I think in last quarter you mentioned somewhere around 75,000 plus these retail touch points, active touch points. Just wanted to confirm that. Is it was
Typically, quarter four is the highest, and then the buying pattern is slightly different. If you go back in history also, the revenue keeps more. The highest revenue is always in quarter four, and quarter one immediately succeeding that has a lower number.
okay? Just last question from my side. Can you just give the revenue guidance and margin guidance for FY24?
Okay, normally I don't give a guidance out, but all I can say is this: if you have the kind of bottom support in the form of infrastructure growth or housing sector growth that we have seen over the last 4 to 6 months, then a similar reflection of the revenue in our financials can also be seen. So it depends on how the base infrastructure works.
Okay. A similar level will be shown in the margins as well, right, sir?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Rahul Agarwal from InCred Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks for the follow-up opportunity. Sir, 3 questions. Firstly, on electrical cable segment, the EBIT margins, when I look at fiscal 17, 18, 19, 20, used to be about 15 to 16% on an average. We are now back to 13%. Do we get back to that 15-16% range?
I think in the earlier days, there was also a little bit of, we were selling everything directly. We didn't have a distribution set up at that point in time. That started coming in towards the second half of 2021. So there is a cost associated with distribution which then eats into your margin. That is number one. Number two is our A&S spends have been higher than in the earlier years. That also comes out of the margins. So I think steady state, what is sustainable is anywhere between 13 and 14.
Got it, sir. Secondly, on this E-beam, just wanted to simplify whatever we discussed and Deepak explained earlier. What is the capex spent here for both the lines put together?
I think the total project cost is about 85 or 88 crores, somewhere around that.
Okay. And given current pricing, are these orders going to be short cycle? For example, if one line starts in fourth quarter, would you book revenue as well? Like, could you get sales in fourth quarter itself? Or how does this work?
Maybe 1 quarter following. So if I'm able to complete it, let's say by December, then the quarter of March, we should be able to book revenue.
Okay. And both lines put together, the top line expected on this 88 crore, should we expect like a similar asset turn, 4-5x? Is that fair? Obviously, the pricing is going to be higher, but will 5x asset turn be fair for this business?
Over a longer period, yes, but not in the immediate short term.
So the time to ramp up is pretty long, is it, for E-beam facilities?
It will be at least 1 year, I think, because right from day one, you will not be able to show a asset turn of 5 times. I think that takes a little bit of time to stabilize and increase the turn.
Got it, sir. Got it. And lastly, on communication cables, I mean, we are approaching elections sometime in March, April. I would imagine till January starting, we'll have some kind of protocols to be followed. Assuming, new tenders take a bit of more time to come out from phase 3, and based on the current order book, you said you have 6 months visibility, but would you say that you would increase the revenue from last year? Like last year, I think you were about 580. Is it possible to increase that based on whatever visibility we have right now?
I think so. As long as the prices hold, no issues.
Acha. Okay. So that could still grow based on the current order book, like 15%-20%. Is that possible?
That's possible, yes.
Okay. So any particular reason for that being flat this quarter?
No, like I said, volumes have gone up. Because of pricing pressure, the values have remained kind of flat.
Right. Right. So from here, if pricing stays flat, we could reach, which we could do 15%-20%.
Yes.
Okay, I get it. Get it, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that.
Thank you. Before we take the next question, a reminder to all participants that you may press star and one to ask a question. Our next question is from the line of Mahesh Bendre from LIC Mutual Fund. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Sir, we are very strong on wire side. Cable side, our product portfolio is very limited. And what we have been witnessing right now is demand for cables, for solar cable or whatever. I mean, T&D and all kind of stuff is really growing. So our expansion plans that you just talked about, that is what we want to focus on, that we want to increase the presence in cable side.
On the solar part of it, yes. But on the T&D side, we are a little bit choosy. You are exposed to distribution utilities and maybe sometimes at the higher end of the chain, you are exposed to transmission utilities. But their financial strength is, you know what it is. So we have always been a little choosy, and we have not, therefore, consciously not participated in that side of the business. And that's a large business. We understand that, but it also means larger working capital outlays. It also means chasing around for money. More importantly, it means that you have to be. It's an entirely tender-driven business, and therefore you have to be L1 all the time to get into a business. So you might end up sacrificing margins for volume. So it's something that we have avoided so far consciously, and we have been only looking at opportunities which makes contractual sense to us.
But sir, I mean, the opportunity on the industrial side, if you are not comfortable, I understand SEV has its own payment problem. But on industrial side, so the cable requirement is huge. So on that part also, can we expand, or even for export side, many cable manufacturers are exporting to US and other countries. So that part is also not being addressed from our end. So I'm just trying to understand, are there any plans of, looking into that particular business, because that size of the business opportunity seems to be very high.
It is, and in fact, it's not that we don't address the industrial requirements. So if there are large industrial houses which have got expansions, we do consider those opportunities. We participate in those opportunities. Exports, you are right, we have not done that so far. That is something that we will have to look at and take a call on. And I do see quite a number of our peers at least reporting that they have very good export numbers. So it's probably something that we should look at as well.
Sir, last question from my end. Sir, post 2008, I mean, we have become quite conservative in terms of growth and balance sheet and overall business opportunity and how we address it. But now looking at the capex plan and new segments we want to go over the next 2 years, is it fair to assume that we as a company has become slightly aggressive, or in a sense more growth focused rather than sticking to the more old business, or you can say the traditional business?
So our focus on growth has been there. You're right. Around the time of 2008, 9, 10, there were other issues that were facing the company, and therefore we had to fix those. So we spent some time in getting those fixed. And now that those are behind us, I think our focus is back on growth, adding new avenues of revenue, and at the same time maintaining a certain level of profitability. One has to balance it out. It cannot be all focused on one area or the other. So we're trying to do the best we can at this point in time.
Sure. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Anupam Goswami from STUD Life. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Sir, you mentioned about a 500 crore capex, and that would give about a additional top line of 2,000 crores. So, given that that is mostly on the fiber expansion and freeform and all those cables, so let's say on a FY25, on already a base of 4,000 crores, what sort of growth in the current business that you are anticipating?
No, he was very clear. He said on fiber there would be we would expand from about 8 million to 10 million. That will add to the top line. Most of the capex on the preform and draw would actually add margin to the bottom line. The growth would come from expansion in automobile cables. The growth would come from the E-beam facilities going live. The growth would come from conduit plants getting expanded, and additional growth in FMEG.
Right. And sir, what is our capacity utilization right now in the electric wires?
Somewhere around 70%.
Okay. Okay, sir. Got it. So, and your overall, you are anticipating 2,000 crores by FY25, or should it be later than that?
You add one more year, because if this program is going to complete towards the middle of 25, then all the resultant revenue is not going to happen in the same year. It will take 3 years.
And sir, what is our retail to institution mix right now?
I'm sorry?
Retail to institution.
Well, wires are mostly retail. We sell them through 2 channels. One is a distribution network, and the other one is direct to our channel partners, who are stockists. So that is entirely retail oriented. Some of the communication products are also retail oriented. So close to around 65 to 68%, depending on which quarter it is, would be retail oriented. What is not retail oriented is what goes to the automobile harness manufacturers, and what goes to telecom operators, and some power cables.
Okay. So going forward, there will be more sort of growth since new capacity in the non-retail side, right?
Solar cables, if you talk about it, can be sold through a distribution outlet also. And it is probably going to be a mix of both institutional and retail. Auto cables will be largely institutional, and so would the optic fiber cables be.
Right.
But we also talked about conduit pipes. We also talked about FMEG. That will all be retail.
Okay. And the margin improvement in the wires, you're sensing all the optic fibers line, right? Mostly?
No, I didn't understand your question.
Where is the margin expansion mostly coming, anticipating from?
Oh, on the optic fiber business.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. I'll join back.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Manoj Kori from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening. Thanks for the opportunity.
Sorry to interrupt, Mr. Manoj Kori. May we request you to use your handset, sir? You're not audible. Hello?
Yes.
Mr. Gori? Mr. Manoj Gori, you can go ahead with your question. Hello?
Hello?
Sir, your line is not clear, so may we request you to use your handset, please?
Hello? Yeah.
So may we request you to rejoin the queue as your line is not clear, sir. Thank you. We move to the next question. Our next question is from the line of Dhruv Agarwal from Niveshaay Investment Advisors. Please go ahead, sir.
Hello, I'm audible?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, sir. Sir, in case of high tension cables, sir, in which industry do you see the major demand coming from, sir?
Let me repeat your question. You said in the case of high tension cables, which industry
do you see the major demand coming from, sir?
Well, it's going to come from utilities on the transmission side and some from the distributions. Plus, people who are putting up large projects will have a requirement.
Okay. So, basically, can you just throw some color on that, which industry to be very specific, sir?
I think it is any industry, no? So let's say you're putting up a new factory. It will require an incoming power source. So that has to be a high tension power source.
Okay. Right. And there one more.
Also require them in transmission utilities when they are converting the overhead lines to underground cables. They will require it. You will also require them in distribution utilities.
Okay. Right, sir. Right. And sir, what would be the sales mix in case of cable segment between low, medium, high, and extra high tension cables, sir?
I don't understand your question. You want to know the segmentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, he wants to know the segmentation of what do you mean by low, medium, high, and extra high voltage.
So generally, up to 3.3 kV is called low voltage cables.
No, sir. I got that, sir. In case of sales mix, sir, like out of your total revenue, what would be the contribution?
Our sales mix is largely in the low voltage wires.
Okay. And sir, you can quantify also, it would be great help, sir.
So I think somebody else asked me this question before. Out of the 1,200 crores of sales that we had, let's say 1,050 is wires and cables. Out of that 1,000 is wires of different kinds, and about 50 is the cable part.
Okay. Right, sir. Right.
That makes it clear?
Right, sir. Sure. And sir, is there is a target of government to do the 500 gigawatt by 2030. Sir, do we expect any demand from that, sir? In case of renewable energy, sir.
So you're talking about renewable energy. So that is wind and solar power.
Right, sir.
Yeah. So as more of those plants get set up, then obviously they will need cables for evacuating them. So yes, it will translate into business for us. And yes, that is why we are setting up this electron beam facility so that we can participate in the market.
Right, sir. If you can share some percentage of that, sir, how much contribution do you our share would be out of that, sir?
We are just setting up the facility, so I think it's a little too early to say that I've got X percentage share or Y percentage share.
Okay. Right, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering all my questions.
Thank you. Our next question is from the line of Manoj Gori from Equirus Securities. Please go ahead, sir. No, sir. Your line is still not clear, sir. May we request you to use your handset, please? So your line is not clear. May we request you to rejoin the queue with a different connection to ask questions. Thank you. Mr. Manoj Gori, you may write to us for any further queries at mamta.samat1@dntsu.com. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, that was the last question of our question and answer session. On behalf of Finolex Cables Limited, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.